This is the Christian Circle podcast, and you're listening to Pamela Fernandes, where we have conversations about Christian living. Here's the show. Good evening. Welcome to a new episode of the Christian Circle podcast. Today we have Charles Johnston, who's back with us, and he's going to talk to us about RCIA, which is the Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults in the Catholic Church. So, Charles, tell people a little bit about yourself and your ministry first.
My name is Charles Johnston, like Pamela said, and I have a website at nowthatimcatholic.com, and I'm also very active on Facebook at Now That I'm Catholic on Facebook. I am an adult convert to the church, and I actually went through the RCIA process, let's see, it's like 6 years ago now, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. And since that time, I've come back and been a sponsor. Now I'm on my fourth sponsorship right now, so helping another person through the process, kind of walk with them, answer questions. We'll get into that too, what a sponsor is and everything. Part of it is there's free coffee and donuts usually, so that's a big draw for me. You bring me back every Sunday, but also it's just it isn't the same at every church, but I enjoy the process of RCIA. I enjoy talking about everything, and that's just what I like to do. I like to help people explain and understand the Catholic faith, and that's why I have my website. That's why I'm on Facebook, is to try to spread the truth, beauty, and goodness that is contained in the Catholic Church.
I already mentioned what RCIA is, but can you tell people what this really is? Because I'm sure a lot of people who have gone through Wikipedia and online, they're going to get confused by all the steps, the processes. It's very complicated to read. So explain to people first, what is RCIA?
Sure. So before the Second Vatican Council, when someone wanted to become Catholic, kind of from the Middle Ages on to like the early modern age, you'd go meet with a priest, and the priest would kind of give you personal instructions and then bring you into the church. Sometimes that was like a week of talking to you. Sometimes the priest was busy and he would meet with you. So it was a hit or a miss. How well catechized you were was really a hit or a miss. And there wasn't really as much of an emphasis on really forming a person as well as in the early church. So in the early church, people would come into the church, and they had to be careful too, because like in the earliest days of the church, people were trying to infiltrate them to find out who they were, to then have them all killed. So they had to be kind of careful of who they let in and kind of like screen people. But also, you would be catechized over the course of, like in the early days of the church, I'm talking like 2nd, 3rd century. Sometimes that period of catechesis would last for 2 or 3 years until a person was ready to be baptized. Because they didn't want to, it really doesn't do anyone any good. And we've seen that in the Catholic Church in the last 50 years. It doesn't do anyone any good to say like, oh, okay, I want to become Catholic, sure, because I'm marrying this girl and she wants me to become Catholic. So that's what I'm going to do. You go in, you get baptized, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening, you never come to Mass. And then you're just a Catholic on a census form, oh, X amount of Catholics support abortion or support things that like go against the church. And you say, well, how is that? Well, that person, there's a lot of persons that are Catholic in name only. It doesn't really do the church any good for people to join the church if they don't know why they're joining the church or they don't know what the church believes. So the church doesn't want to trap you, and they don't want to trick you into things. They don't want you to sign on the dotted line and we've caught you. That's it, you've signed, and now you signed your life away. The church is very open about what we teach. There's no secret teachings. Like there's no because you hear people say, well, Catholics believe this. And they'll say, no, we don't. Yeah, you do. Like they know better than you. So there's no secret teachings. There's nothing that's held back. You go through the RCIA process, and everything's open and available to you. And that's why it's been set up now, this process, since I think it started in like the 70s. They developed it after the Vatican Council. So to get back to the original way of doing it, a long period of catechesis, a long time of discernment. There's a lot of discernment that goes on in RCIA. So you discern whether you're ready for the next step, and there's different periods too in the process. And we said, let's do this, and let's have it, this process, like the original church done, because that served the church and the people of the church so much better to have this period of catechesis and to have this process, like I said, to play out over time, so that when you join and you say, I believe and profess all of the Catholic Church teaches and proclaims to be revealed by God, like if you stand at the altar and you say, you really do believe it. And you believe it enough to where you're willing to die for that. That's the point you want to get to. And so, like I said, it's a process, and that's the Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults, and it's a wonderful journey. They call it a journey all the time, And when I first went through it, I was like, oh my, because you tell someone like you got to go through this process. You can't just raise your hand in church. Like there's a lot of mega churches. You say you want to become a member of the church. Okay, raise your hand. Yeah. And it's like saying the Pledge of Allegiance in school. I hereby do say that I am now a member of this church. Okay, I don't clap. Now you're a member of the church. Yeah. It isn't like that in the Catholic Church. They want you to know what we believe. Here's what we believe. Here's why we believe it. Do you believe this? Yes. Okay, come join us. That's essentially what it is, but it plays out over a long period of time.
So before we go into the steps first, what is the purpose? Now, I know this, a lot of kids, especially I know a lot of teenagers know that they have to be confirmed. They have to be baptized and confirmed if they want to get married in the Catholic Church. So a lot of kids today know that they have to go through the process of confirmation and everything. But just to tell people, what is the purpose really of RCIA? Not just the fact that you want to get married to somebody, but what is the purpose of RCIA in addition to that?
Right, and the primary purpose of RCIA is for converts to Catholicism. So there's a lot of people that end up going through the program because they didn't get all their sacraments, like you're saying. Yeah. And so a lot of people do go through the program to get Muslims baptized as infants. But they either never received First Eucharist or they didn't receive First Eucharist and confirmation. So technically the process itself was developed and set up and it's made for converts, whether baptized converts like myself. I was baptized as a Presbyterian when I was an infant. Okay. Or unbaptized converts, or like a pagan. Essentially, people don't think of paganism, but if you're unbaptized, you're technically a pagan. And so that's what it's for. But it's also used because generally the people that are not confirmed and haven't received Eucharist are also uncatechized. So they go through the program with the converts, and because it's beneficial to everyone, even lifelong Catholics that go through the program as a sponsor. It's beneficial to them too. Everyone that goes through the program benefits from it. So if you got the time, and there is usually there is adult confirmation classes too at most parishes. Yeah. And so you can go through that if you want. But someone who's completely uncatechized, like I was baptized as a baby, my family never went to church. Now I'm 30 years old and I want to get married. I need to be confirmed so I can be married in the church. Yeah, you're probably going to want to go through RCIA.
This is even if you have a 17-year-old who well, it's still technically a child, but now is considered an adult. Even they would have to go through RCIA. So you have to know.
Yeah, in my parish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people. I think it's everyone over the age of
16. I think
12 maybe goes to the RCIA. Okay. But they have like a children's version. There is a children's there's the Rite of Christian Initiation for Children, RCIC.
Okay.
For children. Okay. So that's anyone. I think it's 6 to 12 maybe is for children. Anyone over that age goes with the adults.
Okay. So, irrespective, you have to find out in your own parish, right? You have to find out what's happening in your own parish. You have to talk with the priest because there might be, like you said, I guess somebody who's Presbyterian or a Baptist would have some leniency. I'm not really sure, but isn't it like there are some segues there? And
yeah, there's exceptions can be made. So the RCIA program is there for the person that wants to convert it. It's actually a benefit for them. Like it isn't the parish just ships you off there and puts you on the back burner. It's actually for your benefit. Yeah. My personal journey, I went to the parish when I decided, I finally, it took me about 10 years, I finally said, this is it, I'm doing it, I go to the parish that I've been going to for years, off and on, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to go to this parish, St. Andrew the Apostle. I am going to meet with the adult faith formation coordinator, and I'm going to tell her I want to become Catholic. What do I got to do? So I went and met with her, and she had me sit through a couple of adult confirmation classes that were in spring. Because the RCIA generally runs with the school calendar. Okay. So it generally starts around August, September, and then it runs all the way until Easter Vigil, and then it goes a little bit after that too. Yeah. But that's where everyone's usually received in the church, Easter Vigil. And I said to her, I want to become Catholic. I've been studying this for years. I know, I don't need to learn about Catholicism necessarily because I was against all these different things, studied it. I worked my way around all these different issues. I know what the church teaches, and now I'm willing to accept it and say, I believe that everything the church teaches, so I'd like to become Catholic. She said, okay, come to a couple of the classes first, adult confirmation classes. So I went to them, and afterwards I spoke to her. I said, can I skip RCIA? I don't want to do RCIA. I didn't want to sit for the 9 months that it took, because for me it felt like it was going to be like watching paint dry. and it's funny now, I think back on it, because now I've done it for 5 years in a row. I didn't want to do it for the first, I didn't want to do my own trip to it, and now I sit through it every Sunday. So it is kind of ironic. God has a sense of humor. I said to her, can I skip it? She said, yeah, you can skip it. I said, okay. She said, but I have to ask Father, I have to ask the pastor. At the time, The pastor was Father John. She said, he's on vacation right now. Come back. I said, okay. So I went to Mass, and I would just, I'd sit in the back of Mass. I wouldn't receive communion. And that was in like June. So June comes in July. July goes to August. And I'm thinking like, wow, priests take really long vacations. And I walked up there. I seen her one Sunday, and I said, her name was Kathy. I said, Kathy, what's the deal? Have you heard back? Oh, no, I haven't heard back from him yet. He's very busy. I said, yeah, he's still on vacation. Okay. So I went back, and then another 2 weeks goes by, and I'm sitting in, I'll never forget, I was sitting there, and someone gets up to read a letter from the pastor. It was a resignation letter that he had a medical emergency while on vacation. So everyone, I don't know, like if everyone thought he was on vacation or not, that's just what they were telling like parishioners,
Yeah.
But he took some sort of medical emergency and he was trapped in his hotel room for like 48 hours. And the parish office finally called the hotel, and they went knocked the door down. There he was laying on the floor, and whatever damage it caused, he had to go to like a medical rehab. He was an older priest anyway.
Okay.
So he had to resign, couldn't be the pastor anymore. So I said to Kathy, I said, where does this leave me? Like now we don't have a pastor, because he's the only one that can say, yeah, you can skip RCIA. So she said, well, we got to wait for the new pastor. So the new temporary one comes in. And she said, why don't you start attending RCIA, because it had just started. And, we'll see, we're supposed to have a new pastor installed before Christmas, and by that time it comes around. And so then I was really like, gosh, I just want to skip this. I'm being forced into this situation. So I went, and the new pastor comes in, Father Robert, who's our current pastor. And she said, I'll ask him after the holidays. I don't know if she was just putting me off just so that I would continue through RCIA, but by the time after the holidays comes around, he's officially the pastor. He can give me this dispensation and just bring me into the church right then and there if I wanted to. And she said, do you want me to ask Father Robert? I said, no, don't ask Father Robert. I love what I'm doing here. I'm really enjoying this. Like, it wasn't so much that I was learning new things. Like, like the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. I knew what that was. But really to see a presentation on it, and then to sit in your little small group and discuss it, and then read different passages from these books about it, and like have conversation, it really did help me grow in my faith in a whole way that I never even imagined. And so by that time when I'm able to skip it, I didn't want to skip it. And I've basically been going to RCIA every Sunday since then. That was like 5 years ago.
It's funny how God leads you to all these things, right?
It is, yeah. That's why I say God has a sense of humor.
So you said it takes almost 9 months. A regular RCIA would take 9 months, right? As it runs from September.
It's like a 9-month long. Don't want to call it a program. It's like a process. So it's like this 9-month long. Some churches have a year-round RCIA, so it's constantly running every Sunday. My parish does it. Well, I'm in Arizona, and so July and August, everything pretty much shuts down. Because a lot of people leave, go out of town, just get away from the heat, and it goes like the end of August, September, all the way through to Easter Vigil. And Easter Vigil is traditionally the date that new people are brought into the church, so that's why it goes till Easter Vigil. But if you're going through the program and you get to Lent, or you get to Holy Week, and you're just not sure, you don't have to, there's no point to where you pass this point and now you have to become Catholic. Like, they're going to throw you in the water and sink or swim. It's, you get to Holy Week and you decide, like, you have cold feet, or for whatever reason you just, you can't accept certain teachings of the church and you want more time. There's some people that go through the process for, 2 years. And so that can be you. Some people, like myself, want to circumvent the whole process, and some people do. I think Scott Hahn went to his priest and talked to him like 2 or 3 times and then became Catholic. Like, he didn't even do any kind of program. But, so it depends on where you're at personally. But generally, the most 99% of people will go September to Easter Vigil.
And it's like a discernment process, right? In the end, it's like any life-changing decision or any vocation that you decide, you have to discern before you go.
Yeah, it's a big decision. You're saying, because like I said, you're going to stand at the foot of the altar, and you're going to say that you believe everything the church teaches without reservation. It's not, I believe this or that, and I kind of believe in the virgin birth, but it might have been allegorical. No. Jesus was born of a virgin.
Yeah.
He suffered under Pontius Pilate, died, buried, the third day he rose again. If you have a problem with anything in the creed, you really shouldn't say, I believe and profess everything the church teaches and proclaims to be revealed by God. That's, because then you're swearing to it. You're giving an affirmation to a lie, basically. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that under any circumstances, especially standing at the foot of the altar in your church in front of your priest. Like, that's just not a good way to start out your new faith life. But it is. It's a lifelong decision you're making. It's not, you're not just joining a club or you're not just taking this class here, an elective in college. This is a life-changing, life-altering decision that you're going to live by this new, code, basically. And so you don't, so like you said, there's discernment steps built into it all the way through, all the way through the process. And they want to make sure that this is something that you're committed to. Because it doesn't do you any good, it doesn't do the church any good for you to be a lukewarm Catholic.
So, in a way, also, it speaks to the universality, right? In the sense that what you learn in America in RCI is not any different from what you're going to learn in RCI in Asia or in UK or in Australia. It's the same fundamental doctrine. It's the same catechesis. Whichever parish you may go to, it's the same thing, the same curriculum.
Yeah. Well, no, the curriculum does do it. The core of it will be the same, yeah, because it's universal church and it's the policies of faith you're learning. So you're learning about scripture, you're learning about doctrine, dogmas. But even just in my parish, I've seen them change up the curriculum a few times now. When I went through, we read, there's a big, thick red book, and it's called U.S. Catechism for Adults. And I really like it. Each chapter has a saint. It's usually either an American saint or a saint that's kind of like connected to America, to kind of speak to you as American. And then it goes with whatever the topic is, and then it has sections from the catechism, and it has kind of like a workbook, and it was a good way to learn, details about the faith. Then a couple of years later, we switched it up to reading. It was a book, Nothing Should Be Lost, by Father Paul Scalia. That is a great book, and it was just kind of a book on Catholic doctrine. And we would read a chapter of that, and then we would read a chapter of a book by Father John Ricardo, and then read a chapter of someone else, and that was like what we done every week. I didn't like that, but I didn't like it it wasn't as systematic, as like reading this. The other thing was more like a textbook, so more like we're learning from a textbook. And for me, I like that better, but everyone's different. But yeah, you're learning the same thing, it's just different ways of teaching it.
So just to break it down to people, how does this work? What is the format, Sunday to Sunday, and what are the steps?
Right. So the first, there's a first period, and it depends. It's called the pre-catechumate, or a period of evangelization. So during that first period, that usually runs from the beginning of the process to. It usually runs from the beginning of the process to the rite of acceptance. The rite of acceptance is right around the beginning of Advent.
Okay.
So there's that period, and that period is just a lot of basics. Like the Trinity, the Virgin Birth, what is sin, what is grace, kind of just like the basics of, the foundations of Christianity in general and Catholicism in specific. And then that period lasts, like I said, now that period technically can last for years. For me, the period of the pre-catechumen and evangelization was over 10 years long, because from the time you start investigating things, really, you're being evangelized by the church, And so for me, it lasted a long time. For most people, it lasts 3 months, 4 months. And then you have the rite of acceptance. So you're officially accepted as a catechumen or a candidate. So a catechumen is someone who's to be baptized at Easter Vigil. So that's someone that's unbaptized. And a candidate is someone who is baptized, that's validly baptized, and is going to convert to Catholicism. Generally, this is people from other Christian faiths, so like Eastern Orthodox or Protestants, evangelicals, people like that, who would come in as candidates. I was a candidate. As long as you're validly baptized. A valid baptism is, with water, and then in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So really, basically, it's all you need to be validly baptized. So anyone that's like Unitarian wouldn't be a valid baptism because they don't believe in the Trinity. Mormon baptisms are recognized. Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's like Oneness Pentecostals, they don't believe in the Trinity either. So as long as it's a Trinitarian formula with water, it's valid. And the church recognizes it as valid. And St. Paul said there's one baptism, so you don't get rebaptized. And then that's a period of the catechumenate. So that's probably the shortest period, because that lasts from around the beginning of Advent to the beginning of Lent. And so I think generally, what is that? I think Lent starts in 2 weeks this year. So it's usually about a 2 month long. It's like a 2 month long period, like January and December, basically. But before you do that, so the rite of acceptance, when you back up for a second, at the rite of acceptance, before you do the rite of acceptance, you basically get asked, do you want to continue? It's something, you feel like you've learned. Do you feel like you've grown in your faith? Do you feel like you've deepened your relationship with Jesus Christ? And there's these questions they ask you. When I went through it, they actually gave me a test, and I said, is there a pass fail on this? Like, what do I gotta get? And they said, no, there's no grade. It's just see how kind of like evaluate see how you're coming. Now, and see, it's the team members that do the kind of the discernment things, not the sponsors. I'm generally a sponsor, so the team members kind of discern with the person that's going through it. You're ready for the next step. So the catechumenate lasts from the rite of acceptance, which is like the 1st of December around then, to Ash Wednesday, essentially, till the rite of election. The rite of election usually takes place on the first Sunday in Lent, I think it is. I might be off on that a little bit. But that's where, so that catechumenate, you get deeper into the teachings of the church, the more specific things, more on prayer life, more how to pray, why we pray, like things like that, like how to go to confession. There's a lot more specifics being thrown out there now during the catechumenate. So the first period is like a foundation of Christianity. There's like really basics. Then the second period is more specifics, how to live this life as a Christian. Like how to pray, go to Mass, what Mass is about, all that. And the rite of election happens. The rite of election is actually people that's going to be baptized, they write their name in a book, the book of the elect. And the parish priest sends that book, then you take that to the cathedral, and all the people that's going to be baptized at Easter Vigil in the whole diocese meet at the cathedral. And the bishop accepts the book of the elect, and this goes all the way back to the 2nd century, 1st century. And your names are enrolled in this book that they keep at the cathedral, that this is the elect of God who are going to be baptized. Like, when you read in, I think it's in Revelation, the book of life, the Lamb opens his book whose names were written in the book. This goes all the way back to the earliest days of the church. Because the elect, the people who was baptized, so I was a candidate. I wasn't a catechumen. So I go to a thing called the rite of continuing conversion. So it's essentially the same thing, but you don't have your name written in a book. And, there's no rite of election because you're already baptized. So you're already technically in the book, But after that is a period called the period of purification and enlightenment, which pretty much corresponds to Lent. So it's just Lent for RCIA. And it's everything you think of as Lent is going on with the RCIA. So there's a lot more prayer. There's usually a couple of Saturday retreats at my parish. One Saturday retreat, where it's like an all day, and they talk about like the 4 last things, heaven, hell, death, heaven, hell, the judgment, the last judgment. So it really focuses on kind of like dying to self, our mortality, eternity, like all these, like the really, like you're getting into the really meaty subjects now during Lent, because like the whole church is. And that goes from the rite of election, which is generally the beginning of Lent, till Holy Week. And then the last period is everyone gets, whoever's getting baptized, the Easter Vigil gets baptized, whoever's getting confirmed First Eucharist gets that, the candidates. And then after that is a period called Mystagogia. And that's kind of like, that goes from Easter until Pentecost. And that's just, okay, now you're baptized, now you're officially a member of the Catholic Church. So what's next? We don't want to just baptize people, pat them on the back, say good luck, and push them out the door. So this is kind of it's a lot of focus on the family life, on the domestic church, on just continuing conversion. What do you think about all this? And a lot of focus on the sacraments. Making sure people's continuing with going to Mass every Sunday, going to confession regularly, receiving the Eucharist regularly. So all of them things that leads up till Pentecost Sunday, and then that's when it ends.
So just so people know, last year in America, 40,000 people became Catholic. And that's only in the United States. So I'm not sure what the numbers are all over the world, but there are people who are doing this. And if you're considering doing it, you're not alone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think every year around the world, hundreds of thousands of people come into the church on Easter Vigil. Obviously not last year because everything was put on pause. But we actually had done ours on Pentecost Sunday. So that was pretty cool. Everyone getting confirmed on Pentecost Sunday. But yeah, you're not alone. If you're thinking about becoming Catholic and you're listening to this, you're not alone. There's programs out there. There's people out there that's dying to help you get to the other side.
And I know this might seem strange, but is there a fee?
No, it is free of cost. And they usually, I mean, I speak from my own personal experience at my parish. Usually it comes with a really good breakfast and coffee, as much coffee as you can drink. So that's, coffee, donuts, bagels, all that good stuff. Yeah, there's no charge. You get fed well. You get to talk to some interesting people, and you usually get handed all kinds of free books. So you really do come out on top.
Okay.
It's a win-win.
And in the long run now that you've been a Catholic for a while, you've been devoted, you've been committed, you see your spiritual journey growing. How has RCIA shaped your life?
When it first started, like I said, I was very resistant. I didn't even want to do it. But it was explained to me by Kathy, who was the head of RCIA at the time. She explained it to me that it isn't a program so much as it's a process. So it's this journey that you're going on, and it's this deepening conversion. She said, yeah, you agree with all the teachings of the church, but we want to deepen that. We want to, fertilize that. You don't just put a seed in the ground and it just grows. You have to water it, you have to fertilize it, you have to tend to it. You have to grow. I mean, Jesus himself talks about the seeds that are sown, the sower that's sowing the seeds. Some falls on rocky soil, some falls among thorns, some falls on the path. Only some of the seeds fall on fertile soil. And the fertile soil doesn't become fertile soil on its own. It's tilled, it's weeded, it's watered. So she said it's this process. She explained it to me, and I was just like, I knew better. I knew myself. I didn't want to do it. But looking back on it after it was over, I was actually upset that Easter was so early that year, because then the process ended early. Easter that year came in towards the middle end of March.
Okay.
And I felt like I was kind of getting gypped out of a few weeks of RCIA because it ended early. So yeah, I was very happy, and I seen this change in myself, and it was subtle. The way I liken it is, I know a lot about people from history. I love history, right? Like, I've been listening to podcasts lately about historical revolutionary figures, like Simone Bolivar, right? So I know a lot about Simone Bolivar. I know a lot about Maximilian Robespierre. I don't particularly like him, but I know a lot about him. I don't know him personally, right? I know a lot about Abraham Lincoln. I know facts about his life, but I don't know him. Before I went through RCIA, I knew Jesus. I knew about Jesus, right? I knew who he was. I knew where he was from. I knew what he'd done and why we should believe. I knew the bullet point presentation about Jesus. Like, I went to a PowerPoint slide presentation, After the process was over, I knew Jesus. It was a whole different. It's hard to explain. It's the difference between knowing about somebody and knowing somebody. You can read about someone in a book. You can read the Bible. You can read every Catholic book published. And you can know everything there is to know about Jesus Christ. But when you experience him, when you meet him, and I don't know where it was. I don't know when it happened. It was sometime around, during the period of purification and enlightenment. So around Lent, the year I came into the church. It was sometime in that. And it wasn't like an instant, like I didn't get knocked off my horse like St. Paul, like, oh, there he is. It wasn't like that. It was just going to Mass. And one day I was there, I was kneeling during the consecration, because as a candidate, I didn't have, if you ever been in a parish, the catechumens, they say, okay, they call them all together after the homily, and they take them out, because they can't see the anyway. So they take them out, and what they do is they kind of go over the gospel reading and talk about it more and everything. But the candidates generally stay. And I was kneeling there during consecration, I started crying. And I don't cry. Like, that's not my thing. I cried at my father's funeral. Like, I can count 5 times in the past 20 years I cried. I cried during the consecration. And I just wanted to receive the Eucharist so bad that it was painful. And then it was like that for me, and it still is, to the point to where if I forget to go to confession, if I commit a mortal sin and I don't go to confession, I can't. It's only happened to me a few times since I make sure to go on Saturday. If I know I got to go to confession, I make sure to get there. But a couple of times I haven't been able to, and then so Sunday I couldn't receive Eucharist, and it's like this physical pain. I want to receive Jesus. And so that happened some point during Lent for me, the year I came in, and it really was a change from knowing about him to knowing him. And once you know him, it's a whole other world. You don't, I didn't want to sin beforehand, so I'm going through the process, and I was going to confession. I started going to confession, and I didn't want to sin anymore because, I didn't want to tell the priest that I had sinned again. That was still very new to me. I didn't really care for it that much. And B, you don't want to go to hell, because that's, a mortal sin. If you die in a state of mortal sin, you go to hell. So I didn't want to do that either. It changed. Now I don't want to sin. I mean, I still sin. Everyone sins. I don't want to sin because it's like a relationship with my own father. You know, like I don't want to sin because I don't want to fall short in God's eye. And we all fall short of God. You know, it says that in Romans.
Yeah.
But Jesus' grace is there, and His mercy is there, and His mercy is ever flowing, as He told Saint Faustina. You know, His mercy is there for us, and I just don't want to disappoint. I guess it's like I don't want to disappoint them. Like, you know, you don't want to disappoint your parents. So before it was I didn't want to anger this kind of angry, faraway king, essentially, and now it's I don't want to disappoint my parent, and that was a change that happened to me through RCIA.
And I like that you mentioned that now that it's about knowing Jesus, right? Because I know a lot of people who are considering the process who are complaining about the length of the process, who are complaining about why we have to do this and why are there so many steps, why do we need a sponsor, why do we need godparents and all of this other stuff. So it's good to remember that at the end you are getting to know the person that you're deciding to commit with for the rest of your life.
Right. It's like an engagement.
Yeah, forever. Because once he has you, he's not going to let go of you.
Yeah, like I said, you know, it doesn't do the church or you any good. I mean, the hardest people in the world to reach are lukewarm Christians.
Yes.
Yeah, I was a lukewarm Christian. And so we don't want to create more lukewarm Christians because that doesn't do them any good at all. It doesn't do the church any good.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to take the time and make sure you know what you're getting into.
One more thing that I wanted to ask was, now that you've been in it long enough, what would you say to people who have done it now? You know, they have become RCI, they finished RCI, and now they're struggling with, you know, being regular with their sacraments, or they're struggling with this structure because they've come from an unstructured church, or they've come from a more free scale kind of worship atmosphere. Right. So how do you've stayed very consistent. How would you advise other people to do so?
One thing I would say is Catholics talk all the time about the Sunday obligation, so we're obligated to go to Mass on Sunday, which is true. You know, missing Mass without a good reason is a mortal sin. But we really need to reframe that and see it as this opportunity that we get to go. We have this opportunity. And now I think the coronavirus, you know, once people's not scared to come out anymore, you know, like when people kind of start coming out again. But I think the coronavirus has put a lot of that into perspective, that we take a lot for granted.
Yeah.
You know, we have this opportunity to go to Mass on Sunday, and we live in a country, you know, that we can do that. A lot of people around the world can't do that.
Yeah.
And we have this opportunity the Mass is this beautiful, I don't know, did you ever see that, there's a new film now called The Veil Removed?
No.
Oh, it's only about 5 minutes long, and it's kind of like, if you could see with spiritual eyes what's happening in Mass. So like the priest is, celebrating Mass, there's angels around him, there's like a cloud of saints above him. It's amazing. And that's what I always imagined is happening at Mass while you're there. And it was like someone artistically put it together at my imagination. But we have this opportunity to go be there with all the angels and saints, you know, singing the unending hymn of praise, glory, glory, glory. That's real, and we get to participate in that. And now I think a lot of people's eyes have been open with this, you know, COVID, that churches were closed. You couldn't do that. Yeah. Things are all kind of opening back up in different parts of the country more than others. But now that it's opening back up and you can do it, go do it. You know, seek the Lord while he may be found. You know, call on him while he is near. It says that in the Old Testament. It isn't that God's ever going to be away from you, but sometimes you move away from God. You know, so stay close to God. That's what I think it's Chris O'Bear. He's a radio host. He would always say at the end of his show, if you're further away from God than you used to be, think about it. Who moved, you or God? Right? Yeah. God's unchanging. God's unmoving. God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Yeah. So if you're not as close to him as you used to be, you are the one that moved away. You need to get back, get back on that path, get back in that relationship with him. He's always there, like the father from the prodigal son. He's there waiting with open arms for you. All you have to do is turn back to him. He's ready to embrace you. Okay. You just got to turn back to him.
So, any last bits of advice for people considering RCIA? Any encouraging push?
Don't put it off for 10 years like I did. Don't do that. Don't dread it as if it's some sort of, and, I'm speaking from personal experience, and my parish happens to be amazing. I love my parish. Some, experiences may vary. What do they say in the drug commercials? Experiences may vary. So, you might have, there's some parishes, and that's okay. Some parishes might not be that great. You can go, you don't have to go to your geographical parish. So, like, if you're in a small town, like if you're in Hackensack, New Jersey, and the parish you're going to is terrible, you can drive to like Clifton. You can drive to another town. You don't have to go to that parish. So find a good parish, find one that for you. Ask them about joining RCIA. It might be kind of late now this year. Generally, they want you to join before Advent. But you can always even just go and just start going to the classes and just kind of follow the people through. Like you can join them right now, and you're not going to be able to receive the sacraments at Easter probably, but you can still sit in on classes and stuff. Like I said, nothing's a secret. Yeah, everything's out in the open. I would encourage people to do it. To call your parish like right away. Get in. The devil is real. The devil's out there roaming about, back and forth like a lion seeking whom he may devour, and he wants to keep you away. Yeah, that's like his primary. That's his prime directive is keep people away from the church, because the church is, Christ extended into the world. Keep you away from the church, keeps you away from the sacraments, keeps you away from receiving grace, keeps you away from heaven. Yeah. Right? So that's what the devil's primary goal is. And if you're having like drawbacks and things, and a lot of it might be your own personal, anxiety about doing things, but a lot of it might be spiritual too. So you gotta pray about that and resist the devil and he will flee. It also says in the Bible. So pray about it, resist the devil, and become Catholic. Okay. Wow. That's what I recommend to everyone.
That's a very good endorsement. And just to encourage people, Charles has also done another episode with us on Lent. And for those who are now looking forward to Lent and how to prepare and what to do and all those things, you can check out another some of our earlier episodes that Charles did with us on Lent.
Our first episode together.
Yeah. So check that one out for those preparing for Lent. And Charles, let people know where they can find you online and wherever you are on the internet.
Yeah, you can find me on nowthatimcatholic.com. And I actually recently published an article very recently, like 2 weeks ago, on RCIA. So you can check that out. And it goes through the whole process, kind of explains everything for you. Okay. And also on Facebook, just put in the search bar nowthatimcatholic.com. And I'll be on Twitter until tell me I'm no longer welcome. So who knows? That may be sooner rather than later.
I know. It's looking very likely.
Yeah.
Okay, Charles. So thank you so much for talking to us about RCIA and telling people all about this process. And we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.